So let's see what's next. Showed you the scheduling software, and the calendar, the weather, Bible reading. This is the thing, task manager. I can manage my task here. Showed you a little bit about books. Now let me show you something else. Amazon, who created the Kindle, which is an ebook reader, also has a software application, or actually an application, I should say, for your iPhone, and also they made one specifically for the iPad, which is great because I have a Kindle and I don't have to read the books only on a Kindle. I can also, through this application, read the books that I purchased from Amazon for the Kindle. I can also access them and read them on the iPad. So here are a list of some books, and guess what? Here's my basic training book on the iPad. Isn't that cool? Got the 1-year Bible where I read my Bible. I used to read it on the Kindle, and now I've begun to read my Bible on the iPad. But I have some books here on my home page, and then I've got a lot more books. If I go to my archive folder, it has several other books. I've got a couple Bibles and several other books, but I don't want them all to live on my iPad. I can download them and bring them anytime I want to my Kindle, but I don't want to look at all of those books, only the books that I'm reading currently. I like to have on the iPad itself on my home screen. So if I click on Basic Training, which is a book that I wrote, I can go to the beginning of the book and see stage 1, the new birth, and to go to the next page, you can just flip to the next page. So that is, you can go in landscape. Now, different than the iBook application that Apple made, it changes the orientation when you put it in landscape mode. It looks like an actual book with a page on each side. Okay, but the Kindle application doesn't do that. But it's kind of cool to have my book here on the iPad. All right, I have another book, Unlocking the Mystery of Tongues. Let me show you that. Go back into this application and go to the home screen, go back into the archive folder, and I can scroll through these books till I find, there it is, Unlocking the Mystery of Tongues. I can click that. Now this is how you can bring it on the home screen. By clicking on that book, it'll move that book to my home screen. There it is. And I can open the book and go backwards, forwards. Why did it open in the middle of the book? Why didn't it go to the beginning? Well, it saves the last place you were, the last time you were in the book, which is cool. So there's chapter 1 in the book, page 1. All right, now I'm going to show you, even though I can't demonstrate this fully, but there's a remote app that I use to control my messages that I teach in our weekend encounters through this Keynote remote application. It's not made for the iPad yet. However, it's still made for the iPhone, but it still works pretty good. And right now it says it can't find Keynote on Summit Church's iMac G5, that's the computer that it needs, a computer to access the Keynote. The Keynote lives on that machine. That's the machine that I use for the Keynote. But once it uses the Wi-Fi in the building to access the Keynote, and once it does that, it will find it through the Wi-Fi, and I can control all of my slides from this iPad. So I'll just slide from slide to slide to slide from slide to slide, okay? And then I can also see my notes underneath it. I used to do it with the iPhone, but I gave up because the iPhone, because of its size, and some people say, isn't this just a big iPod Touch? Actually, what I say to that is, and the problem with that is what? Because that changes, that in and of itself, to me, changes the game, because with my iPhone, it was too small for me to see the notes. I mean, I could see them, but it was very small on the iPhone screen. But now that same application on the iPad makes it very doable and easy for me to use this to teach from and to use the Keynote remote. Okay, while we're talking about messages and preparing my teachings, there's a word processor app that I purchased. It's $10 from the App Store. It's called Pages, which I have the desktop version of this. So I'll go to my documents and then scroll through various documents. This is a series that I'm on right now called The Life and Power of Words. And so it's opening the document now. And these are my notes. And so I use this to look over and to help me to prepare. And it's very useful. So this is the word processor. And while I'm showing that, I'll show you something else that I have to get out of this to do it. And I'm going to go over to my settings. It's so easy to move around on it because you can just touch the screen and there's no mouse involved. But if you don't want to use and there's times if you have to do a lot of typing, like if you're like me, I don't want to do a lot of typing on the on-screen keyboard. I think the on-screen keyboard is great, but I would rather use my Bluetooth keyboard when I have a lot of typing. So it allows you to, it's Bluetooth enabled, but you have to turn the Bluetooth on in order to use the keyboard. And so it says Apple's wireless keyboard is not connected, and it's in range. If it's in range, which it is, it's right next to me. Now it says it's connected, so I can move away from that. And I have a stand that I can put the iPad on. Okay, and I can get my keyboard out. And then I can go right back into, where are you? Okay, go into Pages. And there's the document. I can hit the return key. Bluetooth keyboard. Add more notes. Do some editing to message. Okay, so that's how the keyboard works. Pretty cool. All right. Now, I'm click on it and say select. If I want to cut that out, I can just click and drag and say cut. If I want to, I can paste that somewhere else. All right.